Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of you, dear viewers, and of course, my students. You're watching your own favorite channel, Learn English with Akhlaq Ahmad. And as you all know, I'm Akhlaq Ahmad, your host and teacher, and an English teacher from AMU. So, in today's session, we will take up poem 4 for class 11 elective English students, CBSE course. This poem is entitled Telephone Conversation. And as usual, in this session, I'd give you the theme, the difficult words, and of course, we'll read the introduction to the poem, and I'll give you a thorough introduction to the poem as well. So, let's begin with the theme of the poem. Here you are. The poem deals with, please write it down. The poem deals with the theme of racism. The theme of racism. Full stop. The poet suggests that racism has a dehumanizing effect has a dehumanizing effect on human beings. Full stop. It can be noticed it can be noticed in such a commonplace activity in such a commonplace activity as a telephone conversation. A telephone conversation. Full stop. The poem shows that racism continues to prevail continues to prevail hidden in the hearts of hidden in the hearts of individuals individuals in spite of in spite of the fact that the fact that stringent 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 laws have been enacted against it, full stop. It is worth mentioning, it is worth mentioning is one word. It is worth mentioning here that the poet does not offer a solution, a solution to the problem of to the problem of racism. Full stop. He only exposes the effects of color prejudice, color prejudice on everyday life, on everyday life in a bitter, sarcastic, sarcastic, sarcastic manner. Sarcastic manner. Full stop. So this is the theme. Now we come to the difficult words. Remember, these words are not in the order in which they occur in the poem. Rather, they are in alphabetical order. And because, many of the words are common but used in a figurative sense, so I'll be focusing more on the meaning that applies in the poem. Okay, the first word is off. 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 This word is used as an adverb, a preposition, an adjective, and also a noun. Now, in our poem, it's used as an adverb, and the meaning that applies in our case is away, away. The next meaning is at or to a distance, at or to a distance then far from, or distant from, distant, distant from. All right. Next word is indifferent, very common word. Indifferent, indifferent. This means, in this context, neutral, impartial, objective. So a neutral place, you know. The word indifferent is used to describe a location, an indifferent location, a location which is, you may say, favorable neither to the white nor to the black. So, you know, this brings us to the next word, which is accent. ACCENT, accent. This means stress of modulation of voice, stress of modulation of voice. A mark used for this stress, a mark used for this stress, and it's also used as verb transitive, and it means to give stress on a syllable, to give stress on a syllable, syllable, syllable. Now, you see, as you may have heard, British accent, American accent, but here if it refers to the tone of speaking, लहजा जिसे हम कहते हैं, यानी लहजा कभी सख्त होता है, कभी polite होता है. In that sense, the word accent has been used. The next word is assent. ASSENT. Used both as verb transitive and noun. It means to agree or to consent. Here it's used as a noun and it means act of agreeing or approval or approval. Then the next phrase for us is peroxide blonde. Peroxide blonde. Well, these are two words. Blonde is usually, it usually refers to a woman of fair complexion, a woman of fair complexion and golden hair. Now, peroxide is usually a chemical used for bleaching. I'll come to the word bleach later on. Now let's understand peroxide blonde together. Peroxide blonde is usually derogative, and it means woman, a woman with bleached hair, with bleached hair. Now, first, you please note down the meaning of the word bleach and then I'll explain it. Bleach is both verb transitive and intransitive, and it means to whiten by exposure to sunlight. To whiten by exposure to sunlight or by chemical process. Or by chemical process. Now, peroxide blonde, I said this is derogative. That is when you want to criticize somebody, especially a woman, also a man, uh, and you mean to say that although his complexion is fair and his hair are golden in color, but they are made golden in color artificially. They are not naturally golden in color. यानी रंगे हुए बाल जिसके हों, एक तो कुदरती सुनहरे बाल होते हैं, एक आर्टिफिशियल गोल्डन कलर haired, artificially golden colored hair. So a person having artificially golden colored hair. So we use it to make fun of such a person. Usually white people, you know, if a black person has uh, fair skin and a rather golden hair, they would say that it's peroxide blonde, artificially blonde. It's not natural. बनावटी है ये, असली नहीं है. So this is peroxide blonde. Remember, you use this phrase to insult somebody or to derogate someone, not to praise somebody. Okay. Uh, in fact, the poem has a number of words which highlight color, because color is the main issue in the poem. So, blonde is one of them, peroxide blonde. These are two this is an expression which refers to color. There would be others as well. The next word is brunette. 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 This word also refers to color, and it means a woman of dark complexion. A woman of dark complexion. Then the next word is bottom, which you know. Bottom, the lowest part. In the poem, it means the hips. Then we have the word clinical. clinical is the word which is used usually in medicine or medical terminology, but it applies to general context as well. And it means objective, objective, dispassionate, coldly detached, coldly detached, yani precise, accurate. We usually say a clinical performance, an accurate performance. Like a surgeon is clinical, precise while performing the operation. For example, remember Dr. Sado uh, when he performed the operation on the American, the writer praises the precision that he had. So he was clinical. But here, the assent is described clinical. That is, the approval is described clinical. So, clinical approval would mean an approval which is coldly detached, which is accurate, precise, neutral, you know, dispassionate, and objective. The next word is concede. Concede. Concede is verb transitive, which means to give up, to give up. Next word is considerate. Considerate. Considerate, which means thoughtful, thoughtful. Next word is crush.
Battery level 90%.
To crush is to overwhelm or to oppress or to oppress. In the poem, it refers to the voice. The poet says, the voice when it came was crushing in its light. Something like that. Crushing in its light means oppressing, overwhelming, that which embarrasses others, that which troubles others, that which humiliates others, that which makes one feel miserable. Okay. Next word is foully. Foully. Foully, adverb it is, and it means vilely. 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 Vile means mean, नीच जिसे बोलते हैं. So vilely, नीचता से. Then the next word is friction. This is noun used quite commonly in science, which means a rubbing of bodies or disagreement or disagreement. The next word is wavelength. Now, wavelength has a technical meaning and an implied meaning as well. I'll give you the relevant meaning. You see, technically it refers to corresponding distance between points in sound wave or electromagnetic wave. This as distinctive feature of radio waves from a particular transmitter. Right, this is the technical meaning. इस हमें technical meaning में नहीं पढ़ना है. Figuratively, it means an individual's line of thought. An individual's line of thought. So, in the poem, the poet says, quickly the wavelength adjusted, because the two are holding a conversation and there was a silence of a couple of minutes or maybe some seconds. But then quickly the wavelengths adjusted means the conversation started. The wavelengths from both sides, that is, from the side of the landlady, the wavelength coming from the tower on the side of the telephone tower on the side of the landlady and the prospective tenant. यानी ये जो दोनों लोग थे इनके अपने जगहों पे जो टावर्स थे उनकी वेवलेंथ आपस में एडजस्ट हो गई मतलब the conversation restarted. Okay, the next word is omnibus. OMNIBUS. This is a four-wheeled public vehicle. A four-wheeled public vehicle. Then the next word is pip. Actually, in the poem, it's used in the past. Pipped, pipped. और ये ध्यान रखिएगा कि ये दो डिफरेंट वर्ड्स होते हैं. PIPE, पाइप. इसका पास्ट टेंस होगा पाइप्ड, PIPED. और ये वर्ड है PIP, which means, sorry, इसका पास्ट टेंस होगा PIPPED. So, pipped. To pip is to produce, sorry, short, high-pitched sound. Short, high-pitched sound, usually mechanically produced. Usually mechanically produced. It occurs in the beginning of the poem, you know. Let me see. Look from here. Silenced transmission of pressurized good breathing. अब यहाँ से देखिए. Voice when it came. Lipstick coated, long gold rolled, cigarette holder, pipped. मतलब voice pipped. यानी the woman spoke in a short, high-pitched sound in a very aggressive manner. So, this is pipped for you. Uh, the next word is premises. अ, देखिए एक्चुअल वर्ड ये प्लूरल में यूज हुआ है, तो ये पहले देख लेते हैं यहाँ पोएम में। द वर्ड प्रेमिसेस यहाँ पे, सॉरी प्रेमिसेस नहीं है, प्रेमिस है, सॉरी प्रेमिसेस ही है। ऑफ प्रेमिसेस, PREMISES, off premises. Now, this is plural. The singular is premise, PREMISE, PREMISE. Remember, this word is also spelled as PREMISS. Both spellings are used, and it has two meanings. The first meaning is a proposition, a proposition, 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 which serves as the basis of an argument. Of an argument. यानी किसी बात के लिए जब कोई आर्गुमेंट दिया जाए तो उसके पीछे कोई ना कोई आइडिया होता है, कोई प्रपोज्ड आइडिया, सो दैट इज अ प्रेमिस। लेकिन यहाँ पे जो इसके माने, जब इसको हम प्लूरल में यूज करते हैं, व्हेन इट इज यूज्ड इन प्लूरल, देन इट मीन्स अ बिल्डिंग एंड इट्स आउटहाउस, a building and its outhouse, ahata जिसे कहते हैं. So the second meaning applies in our poem. Lived off premises. That is, the woman lived away from the premises, which may be dangerous for black people. Now, next word is rancid. 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 Rancid means having a foul smell. Now the next word is raven. 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 This is another word which refers to the color. Raven means the black crow. The black crow. Crow तो वैसे ही black होता है, but in countries like Iran, there is a kind of species of crow which is of shining black color. So that is raven as a noun. As an adjective, it means of shining black color. And in our poem too, it's used as an adjective, and the poet says that friction has turned his bottom raven black. Raven black, shining black color. We will discuss this in detail when uh, we take up the poem. The next word is rear. REAR. The relevant meaning of this word here is to lift up or to raise. Or to raise. Now please try to understand the phrase. In the poem, the phrase is rearing on the thunderclap. We'll come to the thunderclap later on. but rearing on suggests the receiver being lifted and something to be communicated in an aggressive manner. In an aggressive manner. यानी उसे ऐसा लगता है जैसे कि दूसरी तरफ लैंडलेडी ने रिसीवर उठाया और बहुत तेजी से वो रिसीवर जो है कुछ ऐसा कम्युनिकेट करने जा रहा है जो अनप्लेजेंट है. To communicate something unpleasant in an aggressive manner. So rare, for example, you may have studied in The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse that the horse reared on its hind legs and burst into a fury of speed. यानी अपने पिछले पाँव पे खड़ा हो गया. The animal rears. So when the animals rear, they intend to attack. तो ये इसका implied meaning होगा यहाँ पे. The next word is sepia. Sepia is a kind of cuttlefish. It's a kind of cuttlefish. Cuttlefish. Cuttlefish, which is black and just a minute. Um, yes. So cuttle fish. It's a kind of a fish which is black, and also remember it means a brown pigment. The black fluid of the cuttlefish, or and another meaning is a brown pigment prepared from this fluid used in painting, used in drawing, and in watercolors. So here the speaker calls himself a West African sepia, suggesting that in color he resembles a West African sepia. Once again, another word which refers to the color. Okay, the next word is sole. S-O-L-E, sole. As a noun, it means here the underside of the foot or the bottom of footwear. Now, we have the word spectroscopic. Spectroscopic. I'll tell you the spelling. Spectroscopic. Now, this word again is technical in nature, and it has a figurative meaning which applies in our poem, and I'll give you the figurative meaning. The figurative meaning is related to the entire range of anything arranged by related to the entire range of anything arranged by degree, quantity, etc. Quantity, etc. Now, in the poem, the expression is spectroscopic flight of fancy. Fancy, as you know, means imagination. Flight, you means, you know, udan. So, in her imagination, the woman, the landlady, was in fact trying to form the image of the entire body of the prospective tenant. I told you that figuratively it means the entire range of something or anything arranged by degrees, Uh, वो एक ही बात है, the entire range of something. तो अपने इमेजिनेशन में वो ये पूरी तरह से इमेजिन करने की कोशिश कर रही थी कि ये किस तरह का दिखता होगा. That's what it means. So this brings us to the next word, which is squelch. Squelch, which means to crush flat. To crush flat. दबाकर चपटा करना, that is crush badly. Then the next word is tear, T-I-E-R. इसको आमतौर पे हम लोग गलत बोलते हैं, टायर कह देते हैं. जैसे आपने सुना होगा 2 टायर 3 टायर. रेलवे के कोचेस जो होते हैं वो गलत होता है, टेयर होता है. टेयर मीन्स अ रो और अ रैंक. A row or rank. Then the next word is tar, T-A-R, tar. पहले हम इस वर्ड को समझ लेते हैं. It means a dark, thick liquid. A dark, thick liquid got by distillation of wood, coal, etc. Coal, etc. With which a road is paved. With which usually, not always, usually a road is paved. कोल तार हम जिसे बोलते हैं. जैसे अब तो सीमेंटेड सड़कें बनने लगी हैं, जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं कि आम अपनी ज़बान में लेंटर पड़ता है, यानी कि बिल्कुल पक्की सड़कें बनने लगी हैं. लेकिन इससे पहले कुछ जो सड़कें बना करती थी तो वो ईंटें बिछा के उन्हें सीमेंट लगा के और ऊपर से एक ब्लैक फ्लूइड किस्म के डालते थे. तो दैट वाज कोल टार. तो ये टार है. इट रेफर्स टू the road, but once again it refers to the color metaphorically because it's black. और ये पोएम में आपको एलिट्रेशन भी मिलेगा, टीयर टार, you know. The next word is thunderclap. Thunderclap also has a figurative meaning and an actual meaning. Uh, so let's see what it means. Wait a while. Um, yes, thunderclap refers to literally a crash of thunder. यानी बिजली की कड़क जो होती है उसको कहते हैं थंडर क्लैप बट फिगरेटिवली इट मीन्स and usually in similes it means a sudden terrible event or news. A sudden terrible event or news. So, you see, this brings us to the end of the difficult words. I have explained their usage in the poem, their implied meaning. जो कुछ difficult words और phrases थे तो वो मैंने पोएम के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी आपको एक्सप्लेन कर दिए ताकि जब हम पोएम डिस्कस करें तो आपको आसानी से समझ में आ जाए. Now, before introducing the poem, let's read about the poet. It's by a very popular recent poet called Vol Soyinka. His dates are given here. He was born in 1934 and is a famous Nigerian poet and playwright. He was educated at the government college in Ibadan, Nigeria, and later at Leeds University, England, where he took a degree in English. He taught in London schools and also worked in Royal Court Theatre. He returned to Nigeria um, when he was about 25. He has been one of the leading figures in Nigerian theatre, writing a number of successful plays and also a leading and also leading a theatrical company. So he was also the leader of the founder of a theatrical company. He is the first African to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1986. His writings are known for their humor and satire. So this is about the poet. Now, uh, you see, I'll introduce the poem to you. You see, as you may have gathered by now, that this poem deals with the theme of racism. In fact, it presents a situation in which, the whole poem is based on a dialogue between a black man and a white landlady. Both are at a distance and are holding a conversation. Now, the black man wants to rent a place in white neighborhood in some country which is known for, or um, which has a majority of the white people. And obviously, he himself is from a place which is, uh, you know, branded as a land of the black people. He's from the black neighborhood or black area where the population of black is in majority. Now, he wants to visit uh, some other place or live there. He wants to rent a lodging there. So already they have discussed the do's and don'ts, or rather the basic requirements, conditions, terms and conditions of the uh, lodging, such as the price and the prospective tenant is also convinced with the location that is favorable for um, the black people. So then, from this point, the conversation begins, and the speaker clearly says that after that, nothing remained but self confession. So he clearly admits that uh, he is an African. So, obviously he's from Africa. We don't know from which place the lady is, but the landlady belongs to a country of the whites. So, the moment he mentions that he is from Africa, he's an African, the lady begins embarrassing him, asking him about how dark you are, how light you are, what is your color, and he keeps replying, trying to convince the lady that he was tolerable. And, you know, the whole poem, the conversation abruptly ends when the prospective tenant says that, or rather requests the landlady to see him for herself. That is to see him in person and make sure what he actually looks like. Now, the point is that isn't it ironical that in case of renting lodging, whether it's the tenant or the landlord or the landlady, is the color important or should it be important? And the way the African prospective tenant is embarrassed and humiliated goes on to show the dehumanizing effect of the racism spread throughout the world. Laws have been made, strict punishments have been given, yet in the hearts of the people it's still hidden and it has survived and it has continued to exist. You may have heard of incidents of black people being butchered in America. So it's very common even now. And the bitter thing is that it may influence even such a common thing as renting a lodging or a telephone conversation. You know, even in a telephone conversation for the purpose of renting a room, they bring in the topic of color. So, this poem is a satire. A satire is a poem which is, kind of a criticism of a certain trend, tendency, or a person. In the age of Pope and Dryden, which is known as the neoclassic era in England, in English poetry, that was roughly from
Battery level 80%.
1700 to 1745, exclusive satires were written, like Macflechno or Rape of the Lock. And the purpose of these satires were to reform the society, to expose the evils of the society, and to criticize them. One satire that I'm sure you may have read in prose by Jonathan Swift, known as Gulliver's Travel. That is a satire on entire humanity. Pope's poem Rape of the Lock is a satire on fashionable lords and ladies. But this one is a modern day satire. The satire that were used, that were written in Pope's time, they had a specific form. उनका एक स्टैंजा होता था, स्टैंजा पैटर्न होता था, राइम स्कीम होती थी. मगर अब जो मॉडर्न सटायर्स लिखे जाते हैं, the modern satires are free from such elements, and I mean, I mean, they follow a very different pattern. Remember, one of the important characteristics of modern poetry, especially poetry composed after 1950, is indirection and understatement. ये सीधे सीधे कोई बात नहीं कहते. They present a situation and image. Sometimes there is a word or a phrase only, and we have to draw the meaning. Understatement, a statement which on the face means something, but actually the hidden meaning is the actual meaning. And so you would find the use of irony, the use of understatement, the use of indirection in the poem. Now, the central issue in the poem, although it is about renting a lodging, but unfortunately the central issue is the color. And we notice that there are intervals of silence in the interaction between the landlady and the prospective tenants. We would try to analyze the reasons. Then also we would see that the color is highlighted in the poem. We would see in what way the poet does it and for what purpose. And we would pick up all the words that refer to the color. Then we would decide which are the lines in the poem that uh, impress us most, which lines we like most. Remember, we have to give a reason for that as well. That we can do only when we have understood the whole poem. We'll pay special attention to some particular words, phrases, and interpret them. And we also notice that a number of words in the poem are capitalized, we would try to find the reason why. Usually capitalizations are either to emphasize or to satirize or to make us the ironical statement, you know. Then, interestingly, we would try to see the justification for the title. Why has the poet called it a telephone conversation, though it is about renting or renting a lodging, or for that matter, you know, it is about racism, but it's called a telephone conversation. Remember, the one reason and the most important reason for this is that the poet wants to show that, you know, racism has such a dehumanizing effect on human beings that it has influenced uh, very commonplace activities such as even a telephone conversation. Then we would try to think whether we can suggest another title for the poem. Then this poem suggests that or shows that the power of poetry lies in suggestion and understatements. We'll see how and why, in what way is this poem a good example of this statement. There are a number of suggestive statements, understatements, and that makes the poetry all the more powerful. So, these are some of the important points involved in the poem, in the study of the poem. Now, uh, you see, this almost brings us to the end of this session, and when we meet again, we would analyze the poem. But before I take your leave, I would request the new viewers to subscribe the channel and all of you
Landscape.
to like and share the video because I need your support in order to uh, be able to carry on bringing forward such informative and useful videos for you on a regular basis. So at this note, let's sign off and so take care. Bye bye.
Stop recording video button.